right, all we got is shirts and mugshots.
We won twice. Just sign it. Yeah. That's for Eric and Stephanie, but just the signature would be awesome. And that's all my stuff over there.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Can I take this one?
Yes. Do you want me to sign it or are you good?
Yeah, sign it, please.
Sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Who made you?
It was a calling from God a long, long time ago, ever since I was a kid.
Really? You know, there's another one like you in a different country, right?
There's nobody like me.
No, I know all you need. But I'm just saying, really, I saw it on the news.
Are you talking about somebody dressed up like me?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one
like
in
you.
Italy and there's one in Brazil that I've seen.
Really?
Yeah.
They had it on the news, and I just thought, oh.
Isn't that a trip?
Yeah.
Never
Well, it was
underestimate
nice
your power to
meeting you.
change the world.
Yes, amen.
Thank you for showing up.
Let's give Jake a great big welcome!
First things first, we first invite God. God is the first and the last, so we give him the first word, okay, and the last. So we invite him to a situation, into this situation, into today, and let him lead and guide us as to where we go forward into what Jake is going to do forward in the future.
Hello there, Warren.
If anyone doesn't know, this is a shofar. Stands for the voice of God.
Thank you all so much for showing up. Yeah, it is truly an honor and a pleasure to shake your hands and give you all hugs and to see your faces again. I remember a lot of you, and you certainly seem to remember me. Let me start by saying, go ahead, Jay. I think can you turn it just a little bit because that's kind of a little bit that way. There you go. Right there, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so feel free to take pictures and videos and place them on social media if you'd like. That's moving a little fast. Can you? There you go. Thank you. All right. Well, you know what? Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, my mom. Thank you, Angie, and everybody that did all this. Please feel free to take pictures. We will be recording this in, here, but that is no reason for you to not film little bits of it yourself if you would like for others, or if what I have to say resonates with you and you want to put it out there. So I'd like to start this speech by thanking God for protection and support. It's been quite the arduous journey, to say the least. And I'd also like to thank all the people in the United States and around the world who offered me support. And your encouragement, when so many others were believing the disinformation published by the Operation Mockingbird media, and other people were believing the lies spoken about me by our own federal government. Many of you stuck up for me, so thank you for that. Many of you wrote me letters, so thank you for that. For your support, I am forever grateful. And I could not have done it without your help. I couldn't have done any of this without God and without you and your support, so thank you. The last time I saw many of you, I was waving goodbye and saying, see you in a couple days. Now I'm saying hi, and here I am a couple years later saying hello in a much more public way than I ever anticipated when I left. And it's really surreal. It's almost like a dream. Actually, as Larry was blowing that horn, I had a deja vu, so that's kind of a good sign. And while I had a lot of support on this journey of mine, I most certainly had moments where I felt alone and very isolated. However, being alone when you're at some of your lowest points in life, really, it makes you so much stronger of a person. It also gives a person the opportunity to get closer to God. And I got closer to God in more ways than I possibly could have imagined. And I certainly felt God's presence on several occasions while I was incarcerated. So I knew I wasn't alone per se, but I certainly felt buried beneath a pile of false accusations, media malarkey, endless pages of legal paperwork. But I once heard a saying that sometimes when you're in a dark place in life and you feel like you've been buried, you are actually being planted by the hand of God. And that sounds a lot better. It sounds a whole lot better than being buried. Because if we're planted, then that means it's because a benevolent force wants us to grow. And for those of you who know me, you know that I'm a fan of, pithy little sayings, inspiring quotes. So we're going to have some of those throughout this speech here. And I'm just going to add my own little flair to some of them. Now, I want to start here with a quote from Mark Twain, actually 2 quotes. Mark Twain once said, "The 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." And that really resonated with me, considering everything I've been through and the circumstances I've endured. And also the beauty of the circumstances that I currently find myself in. Mark Twain also said, "Politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed often and for the same reason." And that really resonates with me too, considering the circumstances we all find ourselves in this nation and as a species. Smart guy, that Mark Twain. Funny how things have changed so much, yet our problems are still very similar to what they were so long ago, and throughout history for that matter. History just seems to repeat itself in these funny little cycles. But we keep getting smarter along the way, don't we? And we keep catching them earlier and earlier. Corrupt men attempting to rule the lives of those that they deem to be lesser has always been a problem throughout history. And it's one that I think we're dealing with now with the World Economic Forum, the globalists, the United Nations, the Bilderberg Group. And it's also it is the only the toughest people out there who have the courage to rise during such occasions and make a stand. And those people throughout history have made history and made it possible for us to keep our freedom. And when all the world is against you and telling you to move, you must plant yourself like a tree and say, "No, you move."
That's right.
Jordan Peterson. You guys a fan of Jordan Peterson? I love Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson once said something like, "If you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of." And he was right when he gave that implicative response to a question. But I would like to add to that quote by saying, weak men are really capable of terrible things, especially when you give weak men a position of authority that allows them to feel strong. Weak men in positions of authority often flex their strength by creating stupid rules that they want everybody else to follow, but they don't think applies to them. Which leads me to another great Jordan Peterson quote. If you were going to break a rule, you have to be willing to deal with the consequences. And there are consequences to following stupid rules too. And if you think those consequences are lesser, then you suffer from the delusion that there is an easy path through life. Once again, smart guy, that Jordan Peterson, and a tough SOB too. He's really taken the slamming from the woke mob, God love him for it. Now these truths lead me to realize the profundity to something I once said to my friend Chadwick here on our podcast. These corrupt politicians, these international banksters, these corporate oligarchs, they don't do the things that they do because they are strong. They do them because they feel weak.
That's right. Amen to that.
They don't oppress the people because they are confident, but because they are afraid.
That's right. That's right.
Afraid of what exactly? The people? The people maybe? Well, yeah, that's part of it. But I think that being discovered to be a weak-willed fraud with a big posse and you know, a little bit of very little integrity and fortitude, that may be part of it too. Because I think all of these corrupt politicians and bureaucrats suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yep.
I'm sure y'all know what that is.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is the people or being discovered that they fear as much as what they fear more than anything is the truth. You see, the truth follows these people around every day.
Yeah.
It never leaves their side. It whispers in the back of their minds what they know to be true about themselves. That's why they pathologically lie. That's why they hatch, dare I say, conspiracies to keep themselves in power. Because they know once the truth gets out, once the truth has their way with them, they lose their illusions of power, which allow them to feel strong. So, like the old saying goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And what we are dealing with now in the United States of America and all over the globe is a small group, a very, very small group of less than 1% of the population who have been corrupted by what they believe is absolute power. Many of them have done unspeakable things in order to stay in power. However, as I said, the truth has more power than any corrupt official. For corruption is constantly weakened by the tidal waves of truth, which surround these corrupt officials all of the time.
That's right.
And the corrupt they can't hold back this tide of truth using a broom of lies. And this is the power of the truth, ladies and gentlemen. It has the ability to topple corrupt empires. It has the ability to rescue whole nations who have been enslaved by illusions.
Yep.
Now, many people may ask, how can illusions enslave whole nations? Well, the main illusion that enslaves the minds of most people is that they feel like they're powerless. They feel like they're powerless because they have a profound and deep fear that they think that the people that are up on this hill are more powerful than they. And while those holding certain positions in banking or corporate or government bureaucracy and authority may have more, say, pull, using these systems of control which govern our lives and suppress human consciousness, we have the same, if not greater, power in the spiritual realms because we have God. And God and the power God gave each of our individual spirits, that power is so great that these corrupt people can only dream of possessing that kind of power. They've just convinced us not to use it. And if wars can be started by lies, then peace can be started by the truth. That right there is the reason why they fear each of us so much. For each and every one of you is an extremely powerful spiritual being with the ability to speak truth. And remember what Ephesians 6:12 says. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, and spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So with that in mind, let me follow that with a quote I heard recently. And that is that if the devil is ignoring you, it's probably because you're doing something wrong. Okay? However, when the devil comes at you, when the devil is trying to stop you, it's probably because you're doing something right. And this is why it is so important that each of us walk in faith through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil. For God is with all of us. This is also why it is so vital that you do your own research and have an independent mind that isn't easily swayed by propaganda or confirmation bias or psychological operations. We must learn to differentiate between facts and opinions and between ignorance and stupidity. For a fact, ladies and gentlemen, is information minus emotions.
That's right.
And an opinion is information plus experience. While ignorance is an opinion lacking information. And stupidity is an opinion that ignores facts. And let me tell you right now, until you have worked in food service industry, retail, or sales, you do not know, you don't fully understand how many stupid people and ignorant people there are in this world, okay? However, it's also really important to mention, the stupid or ignorant people in this world are not our enemies, you guys. But rather the enemy, if there is one, is the very real system of subversion and manipulation that makes people ignorant and stupid in the first place. Yes, thank you. Somebody said it. I was hoping that it was implied, Moreover, everyone is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. Therefore, we don't understand or know the depth of any one person's pain. So it becomes imperative when in fits of frustration and bewilderment at some people's ignorance and stupidity, that we remember it is only love, you guys, not anger and hatred, that is the greatest healer in this world.
Amen.
The more we love, the more we heal our own wounds and the wounds of others. Heated debates with raised voices and flaring emotions will get you nowhere with stupid or ignorant people. It's like playing chess with the pigeon. They just knock over the pieces, crap on the board, and fly away. Okay? Besides, let me ask you this. When was the last time you changed your mind because somebody was yelling and screaming at you? I don't know about you, but that always turned me right off. And I was like, okay, I'm out, see ya. So if we are to win this spiritual war, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what this is. It is a spiritual war.
Amen.
If we are to win this spiritual war, we can only do so without anger and hatred in our hearts. For it is anger and hatred which fuels conflict. It is anger and hatred which prolongs wars. It is anger and hatred which cause one group of people to dehumanize another group of people. And all evil in this world, you guys, all evil in this world is born first and foremost from dehumanizing a specific group of people.
That's right.
Okay? It is also important to remember why we fight for our country. It's not because we hate what's in front of us. It's instead because we love those we are protecting behind us.
That's right.
Lao Tzu says the best fighter is never angry. And I like that. So the only way to win this spiritual war is to have an unshakable internal peace. The only way to be victorious is through unity and a deep Christ-like love.
Amen.
In short, we must unite to speak the truth with one voice and without malice. Now, there is such a thing as righteous anger, and I'm sure everybody in this room has felt righteous anger. And considering the situation, there's poison in the food, there's poison in the water, there's poison in the air, there's poison in these vaccines, there's intellectual poison in our schools, it's in the media, it's in the corporate world. I'm sure you guys have seen what Target's up to. And they're trying to groom our kids and take them away from us if we do not allow doctors to put them on puberty blockers and cut off their genitals. So clearly, shots are fired. You know, they are on the attack.
Targets.
Consequently, the only way to relay the truth to others is with love, though, is with peace and understanding. Otherwise, the power of our message is lost by the tone and the approach of the messenger. So, love everybody that comes into your path, because God placed them there for a reason. And when you speak the truth to those who oppose your views, be a representative of Christ's love. Be a representative of Buddha's peace. For that is the most effective way to spread the truth. And we do want to be effective, don't we? We don't want to be ineffective, When I was a child, I realized the world was full of corruption and a monumental number of problems. And like many others in this room, my mama always told me I could be whatever I wanted when I grew up. So, I chose to be the solution to all of these problems a long time ago. Now, I'm well aware that there is a faction of the global population that doesn't see me that way. But the way that people see me, or you for that matter, is not a reflection of us, you guys. Of us as an individual. It's actually a reflection of them and their perception of the world. And we have to remember that when people are trying to turn us into something that we're not. We must never allow someone to use what they think they know about us to distort who we are or rob us of what makes us great and unique. David Goggins, the Navy SEAL. Do you guys know David Goggins? If you don't, you gotta check him out. He wrote this book called Can't Hurt Me. And this guy, he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's so awesome. Check him out. He's a wonderful example. He once said, David Goggins once said, "You will never meet a hater who's doing better than you." And I like that because it's so true. Moreover, if you wouldn't trade positions with the person that's criticizing you, then why would you care what they think in the first place? And believe me, I've been there. I got lots of criticism in prison. I got lots of criticism before prison, but I wouldn't trade places with any of them, I promise you that. So this skill of remaining at peace through conflict, or loving people even when they are behaving in a way that is stupid or displaying their ignorance, is one of the most precious gifts you can give yourself in this life. Because, guys, stress kills. And there's no reason to stress yourself out because somebody else is stressed out and angry. Now, one of the most important ways to stay calm in a debate between seemingly opposing ideologies, and believe me, I've been through a number of these, is to, and one of the best ways to create unity between these opposing ideologies is to find common ground that both sides can agree on, okay? And that's really hard to do if you're watching the Operation Mockingbird media and believing everything you see on TV. So the only way to do that is to be informed. That's why I say do your own research. So I would like to briefly cover it, if you guys are okay with it, and I'm not talking too much. I'd like to just cover a few things that I think will help people to create this common ground and become a unifying force in their community and within their own families. Because you guys, our communities and our families have been torn apart the last couple of years. So first, I'd like to give a brief analogy to kind of encapsulate the current situation that we find ourselves in the United States and around the world and how we can fix it. So I once heard this story that if you put red ants and black ants into a jar, then they won't fight one another, they will leave each other alone. However, if someone comes up and shakes the jar, then both the red ants and black ants begin attacking each other because they associate the chaos inside of the jar with the other race of ants. Now, when in fact it is actually neither of the ants that is shaking the jar, but instead an outside force attempting to pit the ants against one another by creating chaos inside the jar. Now, we will revisit this example in just a moment, but I think it's also vital to say something about how so many families, and I kind of said this just a second ago, that so many families and friendships have been divided by propaganda over the last several years, you guys. I mean, before Trump got in office, We had friendships that were 20 years, or lifelong friendships, and then everything fell apart because the Operation Mockingbird media just pushed and pushed and pushed. So I think this fact was taken to a whole new level when Trump took office, not only in 2017, but also an even greater level after January 6th. Which is for many, when I made my debut on the global stage, as it were. Now, in order to understand how it is that our country has become so polarized, we must first know a couple of terms and their definitions. Then I'll bring it back to this whole thing about the ants in the jar, okay? So let's start with syntax and cognition. Syntax is the study of how words and morphemes combine to form larger units such as phrases and sentences. And cognition refers to the mental process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through experiences and our senses. So, syntax plays a very large role in our cognitive grasp of reality. We use words to explain the world to ourselves through syntax. Then we often reinforce that explanation and that perspective through our own experiences and the input to our senses. It's like the old saying goes, if you're hungry and you're walking down the street, all you're going to see is what you can eat, right? So now this process of using syntax to create a cognitive grasp of reality is something that can be heavily influenced by neuro-linguistic programming. Have you guys heard about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? Okay, good. I'm speaking to an informed crowd. I couldn't have picked a better one. Thank you all. So, neuro-linguistic programming is something that happens when words are used to program the brain's neurons to create a pattern in the brain. Now, neuro-linguistic programming can, and often is, also reinforced through the use of stimuli such as images or videos. Now, our emotions, are emotions rational? No. Our emotions play a vital role in the neuro-linguistic programming process, you guys. Especially when those words and images trigger an emotional response in the brain and the body. So when those trigger words and those trigger images are combined strategically, people can be pit against one another based on their neuro-linguistic program view of reality. So instead of uniting around the truth, they're fighting each other over the talking points they're handed on the television. And that's the situation we're in. I know the feeling. Ugh. Believe me. A few examples of some trigger words I'm sure you're going to be all familiar with is violence, hate, racism, white supremacist, fascist, communist, bigot, homophobe, transphobe, terrorist, insurrection, deadly, etc. These are trigger words because when you hear them, it solicits an emotional response, does it not? Yes. So all of these words tend to trigger an emotional response in most everyone that hears them. Furthermore, these triggered emotions can be used to divide our country based on how these trigger words are used in combination with trigger images to target a specific group of people and then pit them against one another. So, all depending on the media that people are choosing to watch, whether it be the communist news network or the fraudulent Fox News, these trigger words and images will be used differently to create a different response using the same stimulating events. So you have CNN over here covering the events one way, you have Fox over here covering the events another, and then they let them loose on each other. And you have people debating over the talking points they were handed from on high. Then when we combine the hypnotic state our brains are put into, when we watch television or scroll through our phones, this is a hypnotic state, you guys, that has been clinically proven to occur when absorbing such media. We are literally hypnotized by our television. We are literally hypnotized by our cell phones. And that especially goes for the kids. So stop giving your kids a cell phone and the tablet.
Thank you.
Okay? So this hypnotic state, with this hypnotic state in mind, we can begin to see how the media and our schools, because they give our kids tablets and computers in schools now, how the media and the schools have used syntax, the use of words, and cognition, how we explain the world to ourselves, as a weapon to neurolinguistically program millions of people to see the world as they are told it is, as opposed to seeing the world as it actually is. This is how these institutions keep us in the jar. Going back to the ant analogy. Often, when a crisis arises, we blame those who oppose our neurolinguistically programmed view of reality for the problems in the world, as opposed to instead blaming the person that's shaking the jar. Does that make sense? Then, due to our own confirmation bias, which for those of you that don't know what that is, confirmation bias is what occurs when we look for stimuli that reinforces our view of the world. So because of confirmation bias, we can begin to reinforce our own neurolinguistically programmed view of reality, and often at the cost of turning our neighbors, our siblings, our friends into enemies, simply because they have a D or an R right by their name when they vote. And that's exactly what these people want. These globalists, these communists, these international one world order types. So these opposing views of reality are strategically polarized by those who shake the jar. And our jar in the United States and abroad is our socioeconomic and geopolitical systems. And when these polarized views of reality are combined, you guys, with a crisis in the country, the result is very similar to someone shaking a jar full of ants. And we as a nation begin attacking each other. When this is a time we should be uniting. During crisis, we should unite, not tear each other apart. And we think it's because it's this opposing political party or the opposing neurolinguistically programmed view of reality who is responsible for the chaos, when in fact it's the person shaking the jar. And as we have seen over the past several years, there is a very real banking cartel. There is a very real banking cartel that is using corporations, governments, intelligence agencies, media outlets, and universities to enslave people to this jar that they created. And then, therefore, they control and they manipulate the people within that jar. So now, how do we find common ground in this dueling faction system within our country during these crises? The answer is actually quite simple. And I'm going to wrap it up with just a couple of examples of how you guys can be agents for unity in the world. Okay? And then we'll open it up for questions if you guys have any. The first strategy I'd like to propose is you ask people questions in a calm and compassionate fashion instead of arguing over talking points you see on different media outlets. You see, if you seek first to understand your opposition, then they will want to understand you. But all people want to be understood before they try to understand. And that's just human nature. So then and only then can we bridge the gap. Because everyone likes to give their opinion. So all you have to do is just let them do that. And you have to ask the right questions, and you can lead these people to the truth, which is staring everybody right in the face. The truth is that we are not enemies, but friends. We must not sever our kinship based on divisive propaganda, but instead learn to find what we can agree on and rebuild our nation based on those commonly held values. And believe it or not, we definitely have it.
Amen.
And I'll explain. Thank you. And I'll give some examples. You may be wondering, what could a Republican and a Democrat voter possibly agree on at this point? Well, let me give you an example, and I think this will kind of help. Both sides of the spectrum firmly believe that the government is corrupt. We can agree on that, right? So that's one thing we can all agree on, the government's corrupt. Now here's where we get divided, is the Republicans believe the Democrats are communists and are trying to destroy the country, and the Democrats believe that the Republicans are fascists and trying to destroy the country. However, both sides see massive amounts of government corruption. So we're seeing part of the picture, and both sides see a certain marginalizing of the people and their will in favor of loyalty to special interest groups, to corporations, to big banks, to the military-industrial complex, to the war machine. So it becomes quite simple. If we can all agree that the government is corrupt, which I think we can do that, then we need only ask the right questions to converse about the ways that the government is corrupt and find common ground on how to fix it. So for example, let's say you're talking to a Republican or a Democrat and they are attempting to defend their chosen brand of political jargon and gobbledygook. You can ask them the following questions. Do you believe the government has been mishandling our tax dollars for years? Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. Do you agree that the government is corrupt? Okay, yeah. Do you agree, or do you think that the same politicians have been screwing America for years, even decades? Okay, yeah, absolutely. Can you explain to me why then is a good idea to trust these same politicians who've been in power for the last several decades to fix the problems they created? That's just, like Einstein said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking that created them.
That's right.
Another good one is, how is raising the debt ceiling and printing money going to lead to economic prosperity? Why do you think that we trust the same politicians who make and break their campaign promises every time they get into office?
We don't trust them.
Do you think that this is indicative of corrupt elections in the United States? Because every time the Democrats lose, they say election fraud, corruption. Every time the Republicans lose, election fraud, corruption. Well, the middle of the ground is the elections are fraudulent. It's a selection process, not an election process. Do you really believe that these politicians care about you personally and the country as a whole? If so, why would you think that? Do you think Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest for trafficking children to powerful people in politics, entertainment, corruption, and banking is evidence of government corruption? You see how this works? Everybody knows the answers to these questions because they're obvious. They're staring us right in the face. But we're arguing over the talking points given to us by the Operation Mockingbird media. So how do you feel about the fact that none of the people who visited Epstein Island were on his plane were never arrested for or investigated for that matter? Is that indicative of law and order in our country or government corruption at some of the highest levels of power? Are politicians, lawyers, and the media historically known for telling the truth and caring about the people? Yeah, in my reading of history, no. No, the politicians, the lawyers, the media, they always lie. Why do you think we trust people who continuously lie to us? So the whole point is, you want to, instead of spitting facts at these people, what you want to do is ask questions. You want to plant seeds. You want to allow them to come to their own conclusions for themselves so that these neuro-linguistic programming thoughts that they've been given, these talking points, can dissolve. We must allow them to see the big picture. We must allow them to dissolve their neuro-linguistic programming on their own. And we have to do so peacefully. We have to do so through love. We have to do so through patience. Okay? And this is something I went through in prison. And I actually changed a lot of minds, believe it or not. And the only way that we're going to do that, like I said, is from a place of compassion and love, from a place of inner peace. Now, if that method isn't for you, I understand, and I have a second method that we can use. And so this second method is as follows. I think everyone in this country, both Republican and Democrat voters, can agree that if there is a cure for cancer, it should be released to the public regardless of the impacts on the pharmaceutical industry. And I have good news for you. It's been around for a long, long time. I'll give you an example. Vitamin B17. Read the book World Without Cancer by G. Edward Griffin. FDA stood in the way of vitamin B17 for decades. Another example is Dr. Royal Raymond Rife invented a machine that uses frequencies to kill cancer cells, parasites, fungus, bacterial infections, viral infections, and he did so in the 1930s. He discovered that similar to how you can use sound and frequency to shatter a wine glass, you can use sound and frequency to target cancer cells or any other invasive microbiological life form. And you can do so with a very specific frequency without destroying any healthy human tissue. Pharmaceutical companies did not want that one. However, this device and the patent has been kept from the public purposefully so that Big Pharma can have a monopoly on the cancer industry and profit from our disease and our illness and the perpetuation of those things. So why would anybody want to do that? Well, try to remember that a patient cured is a customer lost for Big Pharma. They want reoccurring customers, you guys, not a cured, healthy person. Another example is everyone, Republican and Democrat alike, can agree that they would love it if they didn't have to pay for their electricity or gasoline anymore. And I mean, for those of you that live here in Arizona, APS was screwing us for a couple of years, weren't they? Did you guys ever get reimbursed for that? Me neither. So it just so happens that Nikola Tesla discovered an infinite, free, clean, wireless energy supply using the Earth's electromagnetic field. He invented a tower that harnesses this energy to create an infinite, clean, free, wireless form of electricity for everyone in the world. And he did so over 100 years ago. Nobody's talking about this, and I'm just like, why? Unfortunately, extremely powerful and influential international bankers realized the implications such as this invention had on their profit margins and deliberately kept said invention from the people. All the while, they smeared Tesla in the media outlets, they destroyed his work, and they cut his funding. Now, there are those who will say that Tesla free energy towers are just a conspiracy theory, and they never actually worked. To those people, I would have to say the following. So you're telling me that Nikola Tesla, who is literally the father, like the grandfather of the modern 20th and 21st century, who gave us alternating current, gave us radio, gave us radar, gave us X-ray machines, gave us remote controls, gave us lasers, and numerous other life-changing patents. He was right about all of those things, but gee golly golly, he sure was wrong about that infinite energy one. Which is more likely, that Tesla was right about everything he invented and fathered our modern world, but he got this one thing that could free humanity wrong? Or that international bankers like J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds cut his funding, smeared him in the media, destroyed his work, and kicked him to the curb. All because his inventions threatened their profit margins. It's a sad story. Look into Nikola Tesla. So not only can Tesla towers bring us infinite, free, clean, wireless electricity, and this is what they really don't want, guys, and that's why I'm bringing it up. The cabal does not want this to get out. It's why I just beat people over the head with it. Like, no, trust me, just go down this road. Not only can Tesla towers bring us infinite, free, clean, wireless electricity, but they can also be used to create a far more stable energy grid that is not dependent on finite fuel sources or destructive and volatile forms of energy production, like nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, you guys, that radiation takes over 100,000 years to biodegrade. That means that if something goes wrong, like in Chernobyl, you can't live there for over 100,000 years. Why are we using this when we have Tesla coils? These towers also afford us the opportunity to control the weather. And I'm not talking geoengineering, chemtrail type stuff. What I'm talking about is the ability to use the change in ions to control and steer hurricanes and tornadoes from destroying cities. Even watering our crops with rainfall on a daily basis. They could clean our atmosphere of all of these chemtrails, like that, and destroy the toxic chemicals in our water systems and our ecosystems, and purify all of these places in the snap of a finger. We could literally green our deserts. We could literally change our entire world into an Edenic paradise with this kind of technology. And that's why they don't want you to have it.
That's right.
Tesla studied non-physical phenomena and was able to change our world and perspective of reality forever. Tesla once also said, once we start to study non-physical phenomena, we will make more progress than we have in our entire existence. These free energy Tesla towers could also be used to create an electromagnetic grid system around the planet, you guys. And this is for travel through the air, which we could then use to circumnavigate the globe by air. And instead of building roads which break down and need repair, we could have massive electromagnetic superhighways, making transportation safer, cheaper, and much, much faster. Tesla even invented a car. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Yeah? Tesla even invented a car. A car that could be powered by this infinite, free, clean, wireless energy. A car that could travel these floating electromagnetic highways. Now, a final quote from Tesla before we move on. Tesla once said, "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Now, whether or not you know it, this is the future of humanity, you guys. We are talking about, this is just the tip of the iceberg when we begin to study non-physical phenomena, when we learn the secrets of the universe, when we understand what Tesla understood. And believe it or not, it's not that far away. We're this close. And I'll explain how we're this close. Trump fans in here, anyone? Well, then you're gonna love this, baby. And I don't understand why more Trump fans aren't talking about what I'm about to bring to the table. So, for the final example of common ground we can all agree on, and will help us bridge the gap between political parties, you may be wondering why you haven't heard about this just yet. Did you know that Trump declassified 3 major patents with the Navy before he left office?
Yeah.
And these patents, you guys, these 3 patents can and will change the course of humanity forever.
Yes, it will.
They are as follows. 0-point energy, which basically extracts energy from the vacuum of space. Okay? There's also a room temperature superconductor, and this room temperature superconductor allows the 0-point energy engine to function without overheating. Then, finally, he also released a anti-gravity or inertia propulsion vehicle that's shaped like a triangle. It's called the TR-3B. All of these things together, you guys, are the holy grail that the UFO and the conspiracy community have been begging the government to declassify for decades. And nobody's talking about it, not even in the conspiracy UFO community. Like, no, these were declassified. Okay? During Trump's 2020, during his time as president in 2020. And a lot of people don't understand the implications here. Oddly enough, Trump himself hasn't even mentioned it on his campaign trails. I don't understand why. But for these 3 patents, with these 3 patents, we can and will change everything. Not just in the United States of America, you guys, but all over the world. We will free humanity from the jar. We'll pop that jar open and start biting the freaking hands of the guy that's shaking it. I promise you. Because this means independence for everybody, you guys. It means a new socioeconomic and geopolitical system. It means a stable, infinite, clean form of energy. It means these patents being public means you can look them up right now. That's what it means. The guy that filed for these patents is named Salvador Pais. And you can and will find these, you guys. This means space exploration, ladies and gentlemen. This means colonies on the moon and Mars and other star systems. It is our destiny, ladies and gentlemen, to be a space-faring species. And this is the kind of stuff we should be talking about. Not Dylan Mulvaney on a damn Bud Light can. Okay? That's what they want you arguing about, is the training on the can. Stop it. Talk about this stuff. Okay? And who cares? Biden's an idiot. He's going to say gaffes all the time. It's funny. Yeah, it's also kind of tragic that, this guy's our president. Okay? But that's why. So in conclusion, which I'm sure some of you are waiting for, it's getting kind of warm in here. I say these things because all of these ideas mean a brighter future for everybody in the United States of America and our children, you guys. This is our chance to change the future for the better forever. This is our chance to create heaven on earth, you guys. Clean, free, infinite, wireless electricity, no more natural disasters, no more chemtrails, anti-gravity vehicles that make transportation 1,000 times faster, drastically cheaper, and much safer. It also means a more stable supply chain, cleaner water, cleaner air, cleaner soil, cleaner food, and even a cure for cancer. This cure for cancer is also highly effective. That's why they've kept it secret. So the only people who can or don't agree with this are the people who seek to profit from our disease and misery. Those who wish to enslave the global populations and exploit our labor. Those who wish to exploit our children and control their future. Those who wish to monopolize our resources and treat humanity like cattle. So I'm sure that most Republicans and Democrat voters can agree on all this stuff because this technology exists. We need only demand it, and a supplier will meet that demand. That's capitalism, baby.
Yeah. Amen.
A final thought before I conclude. The profound secret to all positive change throughout history is not the use of our energy to fight the old, but the use of our energy to build something new. So let's change the dialogue, you guys. Let's stop these globalists from shaking the jar. Let's stop this fighting amongst one another. Let's see the bigger picture for what it is. Let's work together to escape the jar. Let's agree on this course of action toward a greater and brighter future for us and our children and 7 generations ahead. We have a bright and beautiful future ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen, if we would just lay down these propaganda tools we've been handed to beat each other over the head. Let's unite and make this future possible. But let's unite so this future becomes a reality. Okay, so thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to ask and ready to answer.
Jake up here at this table. We are auctioning off the books. He's going to autograph them and put a little note in there for you. There's books that he's going to autograph and make note, pictures. We've also got some t-shirts back there. So he's going to be up here and you're going to pick the numbers out. And so you got to be present to get it. So hang out with us. And also we've got some great food out here in the front.
Yes, you do.
So feel free, please, to enjoy some of that as well. And thank you so much for every single person. Thank you so much to everybody who has helped me and Jacob. Thank you, Gina and Turtle and Brenda and Donna and Marie, I believe, and Eric. And Chadwick and Marcus
and John.
John, of course, John, Johnny. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Don't want to leave anybody out. We love you all so much.
Susan, yes, thank you, Susan. Oh, and Sherry.
And Sherry, thank you, Sherry.
Yes, and I apologize if I'm leaving anybody out. I don't want to leave anybody out. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Enjoy the food.
Long-winded, you all know me. If you have any questions, raise your hand. I will answer some questions. I see one back there.
I got a question.
Can I talk about the last 2 years? Was that your question? Okay, so really quick, for those of you who don't know, My lawyer, Bill Shipley, has just placed a motion in the courts. Are you guys aware of that? Okay. So I'm not going to speak too much about it. However, I'll put it up on my Twitter page. Are you anybody on Twitter? Okay. My Twitter handle is @America Shaman, and I will place a link on my Twitter account that breaks down the motion. It's a 30-minute video. It will blow your mind. I'll just give you a brief synopsis really quick of what it says. So, the motion is basically talking about the footage from Tucker Carlson. Okay? And when the government when they had it, when they made it available, etc. You can check it out online. I don't want to step on my lawyer's toes, so I'm not going to say too much. But because of that motion, I cannot talk about anything regarding the day of January 6th. However, I can answer your question about the past several years. So, solitary confinement sucks. Yeah. Just to start there, it was the hardest time in my life. You know, and I thought I'd been through some stuff before. I put it this way too when I was talking to Chadwick. I didn't want to be alive anymore, but I also didn't want to die. And I had to just go through this crap. And my lawyer was saying stuff that wasn't true to the media. The media was saying stuff that wasn't true, and had a whole campaign against me and made me the face of this thing. The government was up my rectum with the flashlight trying to find any bit of dirt they could get. And it was so hard because I couldn't defend myself. And I had 25 years hanging above my head, like an anvil, like like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner type of thing. You got this anvil hanging above your head, wondering if that little string is going to be enough to keep it up. So, like I said in the speech, when you go through some of the hardest and darkest times in your life alone, it makes you stronger. And under all that pressure, I did not break. I became a diamond.
Ooh, yeah.
A super diamond, yes, a super diamond. And so then when I got to prison, in Safford, that was much easier than being in solitary confinement. So I just used that time to educate myself. I read a lot. I taught a metaphysics class. I enlightened a lot of prisoners, actually. There was a lot of guys that actually enjoyed taking the class, And then I also helped a lot of guys in the RDAP unit, that's residential drug abuse program. I told them that I eat mushrooms, and they thought that was enough of a reason to place me in the residential drug abuse program. And that's what they told me. They're like, I normally wouldn't have somebody like you in this, but you ate some mushrooms, so they demanded that you take it. So. That was an interesting experience. There was a riot in the prison. That was pretty crazy. There was all sorts of funny characters that I ran into. I actually met a lot more Trump supporters than I thought I was going to. So happy about the First Step Act, which he signed into law in 2018 that allowed them to program the way that, and the First Step Act has been around since like the 80s. So Trump, after almost 40 years of this thing sitting in Congress, finally got it pushed through and signed it into law, and now federal prisoners have a chance to program and get time taken off their sentence. They can get up to a year taken off their sentence. And for those of you who are curious, that's part of how I got out early. It wasn't because of Tucker Carlson. Okay, it wasn't because of Speaker McCarthy. Okay, what it was that I had 6 months for good time, and then I had 6 months of what First Step Act credits, or 6 months that were taken off my sentence because I was programmed. And then they released me 2 months before my sentence was over. So I was released from prison 14 months early. And then I was released from BOP custody 12 months early because of the 6 months of good time and the 6 months of FSA time. So clear all that up, okay? You know, this is something I'd also just like to say really quick. I saw, because I was out and I had a phone and I'm looking on the internet, you know, kind of sleuthing around, didn't want people to know it was me. I saw all these social media posts of like, Tucker Carlson's Patriot, McCarthy's Patriot, we got Jake out, you know, 3 weeks after the finish was released, he got released, we got him out. And it's like, well, no. But it's funny how fast this disinformation spreads. You know what I'm saying? Like that. You know, I once heard a really funny saying. It was, what's so bad about the media? It's just the spreading of darkness at the speed of light. And so that's that was the culmination of what I thought was really interesting, you guys, was I would pray because it was going through such hardship. I would pray when I was in my cell, when I was in solitary confinement. I'd pray when I was in prison. And I would get answers to prayer in the letters that people would send. And people sending biblical quotes that were answers to my prayers while I'm sitting in solitary confinement. And the cool part is, and this is the power of God, you guys, some of these letters were a week old that they were holding on to, and they wanted to search through it first. So God had somebody write a letter a week prior to answer my prayers a week later. Yeah, there's an old saying, Satan reasons like a man, but God thinks of eternity. And, you know, God is definitely with all of us, you guys, so keep the faith. If I can go through what I went through, I promise you, whatever you guys got, you can do it. And God will make you better for it. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, that means you are going down like at the Capitol and then other places where there's smoke. Not only that we'll be there, but as always, we got your back this smoke.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I want to say something about that because I think it's something that's really interesting is we got the audit here in Arizona. Now, we got the audit because we didn't stop. We're like, no, and we were peaceful, we were kind, we were respectful of law enforcement, and, you know, they did the audit. It was, you know, it was a joke, just like some of these congressmen and senators are a joke. But it shows the power of the people. It shows the power of the court of public opinion. Will I be going down to the Capitol as often? We're going to be going, when we do the podcast, we're going to be down there once a month. And I will put it on my Twitter page last minute because we don't want Antifa and BLM showing up causing a ruckus. We will try to spread it amongst the community if you guys want to come down and watch Chadwick and Marcus and me do the podcast. When it comes down to it, I was going down to the Capitol on my own in my horns and face paint long before 2020. Will I continue to do that? Yeah! Maybe. That's all I have to say about that. Any other questions? I saw another hand over here. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question. What do you think about AI?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so how many of you have seen Terminator? How many of you have seen Age of Ultron? Avengers? Yeah. Okay. How many of you like Star Trek? Star Wars? Okay. So AI has two sides. Okay? And it's a tool. Okay? Just like a gun can be used to keep people safe and to ensure that freedom is maintained, a gun can also be used like do a mass shooting or something. Okay? It can be used as a weapon of harm as well as a tool for protection. AI is kind of like the same thing, okay? And I have a video. We have a website. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Chadwick. Thank you, Penny. We have a website. It is ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. It's awesome. There's all sorts of merchandise with my face on it and stuff that doesn't have my face on it. We got bumper stickers, we got shirts and all that stuff, but we also got coffee mugs, we've got yoga pants, we got yoga mats, but there's courses, there's also free courses, you guys, and one of the courses is about AI, and it's about an hour long, okay, and it will blow your mind. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of what I cover in that video, okay? So, We can have either a Skynet, Age of Ultron scenario with AI, okay? Where we allow the weapons manufacturers to take over and use it. Kind of, we can have like a RoboCop scenario where we have robots all throughout the country policing people, not humans behind a badge, okay? We can have Skynet type of stuff. Okay, where they're making robots, and the crazy part is that like some of these people that are at the high levels of AI, they believe in transhumanism, and they're talking about how these beings that they're placing in these robots are actually like beings from another dimension, and that they're kind of like the old gods from H.P. Lovecraft. So they're talking about basically like putting demonic entities in these robots. Okay, and that's what they're talking about. Okay, now. The other side of AI is this. Data from Star Trek, C-3PO from Star Wars, okay? It's a useful tool. However, Elon Musk put it best when he said, if you're gonna play with big toys, you gotta be a big boy. And considering the way our economy is doing, the way our government's doing, the way we've used currency, the way we've used guns and stuff like that, I really think, are we ready for this big of a toy? No. I don't know about it. You know, not a good idea. AI is something that they've been working with for a long time. The only reason that they're releasing it right now is because they think they have a hold on it. They've been working with it for decades, okay? There's some pretty terrifying stories about it. And I'm not going to go into them in a church. So, check out my video. It's on my website, ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. There's an AI hive mind in a course. You can take it. It's free. It's an hour long. It'll blow your mind. Okay? Any other questions? No? Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Did Rodney sleep with you? Rodney's his dog. The first night you were home.
Yes, of course. Now, Rodney was as much in shock as I was when I first got home.
I wanted your mom to film it. Tell me it's your dog.
Well, yeah, Rodney's my dog. And he's a little guy, Sharpie Pickle. So, yeah, he was in shock, man. One day his dad left to go get a pack of cigarettes and never came home. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how it was. You know, I wasn't getting a pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if your support people are also being harassed?
You know, I've heard some pretty crazy stories. Yeah, I've heard some stories. But I want you to think about this, and I'm sorry to hear that anybody in this room that supported me has gone through that. That's terrible. What we're going through now, what I've gone through over the last 2 years, is nothing compared to what our children will have to go through if we don't do something about it. So, I have a little bumper sticker on my website. It's got a American flag, a heart inside of American flag inside of a heart. And it's got me in my regalia, my horns, and smiling. And it says, "Everything I do it for you." And that's really the gist of it. You know, because it's not just about me. It was never about me, you guys. It's always been about you. It's always been about our children. It's always been about the 7th generation. And God wins, you guys. God wins.
On behalf of this group here tonight, and on behalf of those that couldn't be here for a lot of things that we all know about, I want to welcome you home. We were there 2020. We're not done yet, but I do have a question. And I apologize to the crowd tonight, but in an opinion, just like you have been tonight, it doesn't have to be an actual hammer over the nail. What did you think about our southern border? And I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just understand human trafficking on another level because of the work I did with children when I was working in group homes. Human trafficking is the #1 black market industry in the entire world. Human trafficking is another term for slavery. And I am so absolutely disgusted that we have people ignoring this problem. Slavery may have been abolished, but that doesn't mean it went away. It just went underground. I attended a number of training sessions regarding how human trafficking has affected children in particular when I was working with kids in group homes. And the situation at the southern border is absolutely inexcusable. From what I've heard from some of the guys in prison, and that may not necessarily be a reliable source for some, but a lot of these guys have no reason to lie to me when I ask them about the situation at the border, because a lot of them are border, crossers, and they got busted bringing drugs across. What they're doing at the southern border involves some of the highest levels of our government. And that's not just in DC, that's here in Arizona too. That is a very hard pill for some people to swallow. The cartels are very dangerous. They do not care. They do not care. Now, when we start throwing around three-letter agency names, we're not talking about the whole pyramid. What we're largely talking about is the tippy top. And this is something. So the deep state, right? Donald Trump has talked a lot about getting rid of the deep state, and I'm sure we can all say, yeah, let's do that, right? But not everybody. Guys, I haven't heard him define what the deep state is. So I'm going to give you a 2-minute rundown, then I'm going to talk about how it involves the border and human trafficking, okay? So our founders, when they founded our country, they founded 3 different branches of government, and they separated them. Legislative, law enforcement, legislative, law creation, executive, law enforcement, judicial, law adjudication, okay? And he separated these powers because they believe that when you combine these 3 powers of government into a single centralized power, you get tyranny. And that's what they were dealing with the Crown in England. Okay, it was all 3 of those branches were under the Crown. Okay.
Is that like the Bar Association with the second Constitution?
Well, there's something about that we can get into, but I'm just going to kind of give an overall view without diving into the details. So, the bureaucracy that we're dealing with in DC is over 500 government agencies that are federal agencies that are regulating commerce, okay? And so through their regulation of commerce, they've essentially become a law-making portion of the government. Now, the bureaucracy also has their own law enforcement agents within that bureaucratic or that agency or that administrative portion of the government. And they also have their own administrative courts. So the bureaucracy has combined law-making power, law enforcement, and courts into a single 4th branch of government. Okay? This is the deep state, okay? And it's this bureaucracy that is working with corporations, working with individuals in the black market, working with individuals at the higher levels of the banking cartel, that is creating this globalist new world order that we're seeing. Okay? So the black market and the free market run parallel to each other. And the same corporate oligarchs that run the free market also have their hand in the black market. Okay? And it is through the black market that people like Jeffrey Epstein get a hold of children, or they get a hold of prostitutes and stuff like that because they're untraceable. What we're witnessing at the border could be very well considered an invasion.
Oh, it is. That's it.
Now, what to do about it? We have seen that when the government sees that the citizens, quote unquote, take the law into their own hands, we've seen what happens to people, and they've done that on purpose, okay? They've done it on purpose where people people stand up for themselves. We saw what they did with Kyle Rittenhouse, where it was quite clear, it's on video, he was defending himself, people were trying to attack him. We saw what happened with that dude on the subway in New York, where there's people coming forward and saying, no, the guy was not only alive when he was on the ground, but he was also defending the other people on the train, and yet Bragg is going after him. These Soros-funded DAs are a part of the deep state. And it's on a local level as well as a federal level that these types of infiltrating agents exist. This is the reason why a lot of these people that don't serve the American people fail up. Why they fail upward. Because they're not serving the American people, they're serving a globalist agenda. And so if they show that they will be loyal to the globalist agenda, they get more power. When these individuals, like, the Biden or the Democrats, or even in some cases, even the Republicans. I mean, look, Bush passed the Patriot Act, okay? You know what I mean? So there's corruption on both sides. All right? There is a uniparty, and that uniparty is the deep state. And these high levels of these pyramids are working all over the country, all over the globe. Corporations, banking, government, education. And that's all I have to say about that.
Jake, what message, what positive message would you have for any potential federal agents that are here in this room right now? Potentially, because that's what
I'm sure that they're here.
What message?
Welcome, my friend. Well, here's the thing, and this is really important to understand, okay? Not all feds are bad. They're just doing their dang job.
That's it.
Okay? Now, I think that there are more patriots than there are infiltrators. Okay? Now, to those federal agents that may very well be in the crowd, I love you, man. Thank you for your service. I wish you well. I'm a patriot. I love this country. I'm all about unity, love, respect, truth, justice, freedom, forgiveness.
Yes.
And I hope that you are too.
Jake, I got one last trailing thing to say. You got a lot of questions coming. I didn't want to take.
Yeah, it's okay. What's up?
But I also wanted to thank you for allowing us to be able to have the First Amendment, everybody. Yes, and we as veterans, we want to thank you again for being one of us, speaking for us. And I want to say, we have a group called the Affidavit Mamas. We're volunteers trying their hardest and their honest sincerity to bring a voice like yours and ours to fight those at the top. Give us an opportunity, be able to know that they're out there looking for opportunities to put the signatures to the plate.
Well, thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah, my honor, my pleasure. Anybody else? Listen. The name of my website is forbiddenTruthAcademy.com. Forbidden, as in like you're not supposed to have it, forbiddenTruthAcademy.com. Yeah, and my Twitter handle is @AmericaShaman. @AmericaShaman. That's my Twitter handle. Follow me on Twitter. You're gonna go. I mean, by all means, go to the website. Check it out. It's awesome. We put a lot of work into it the past couple of weeks. But the Twitter handle is really important too, because if you guys just follow me on Twitter, you will see everything it is that I'm doing. What the memes I have are absolutely awesome. We'll advertise when we do the podcast. We'll advertise little events like this and stuff like that. So if you want to, be kept up to speed, you can just do it that way. Okay.
What's the address again?
For the Twitter or the website. There's two There's two @AmericaShaman on Twitter. America Shaman. Just like the word America and then Shaman. And you'll see, I'm in the white coat. I have the tie, the bandana, the glasses. So you'll see, that's me. I have it says this is my official Twitter page. My lawyer, tweeted it out as my official Twitter page. Yes, ma'am. I have no idea. That was in the House. I was in the Senate. I have no idea. I heard that the woman that found or that took that got. She I think she's in either on house arrest or in prison right now. So the government probably got that. I really don't know. What's up?
Jake, you know, one last question, at least for me, but I see we got some mainstream media here. We got Fox 10 behind me. What is your message to the fake news mainstream media that has been defaming you since day one?
You got me all wrong. 5 words. You got me all wrong. And research Operation Mockingbird. I'm talking to you, brother. Operation Mockingbird. No, who you're serving, my friend. No, and the thing is he's just doing the job. God bless you for it, brother. Thank you for covering it. Glad to see you here. No animosity, love and forgiveness, man. You know, guys, there's a reason why Jesus taught that.
Amen.
You know what I mean? And guys, I gotta be real with you. I'm trying to be as much like Jesus as I can, especially now. He's always been an idol of mine. And, you know, I felt a certain silence when I mentioned the name of Buddha. But Buddha's a good dude too, you guys. You know what I mean? If you got Buddha and Jesus in a room together, they would have a ball. Okay? Hold on one second. We got a little line here. Right now. Go ahead.
This is just to address Fox News. Jake, I think you're absolutely brilliant. I didn't realize how brilliant you actually are. I think the new Tucker Carlson may be standing right up ahead.
Thank you, that's very kind of you. And it is absolutely appalling, the level of negligence, ignorance, and stupidity that these board of supervisors, you know, the courts, the judges in some of these cases, the way that the prosecution, or the way that the defense is trying to defend themselves, it's just appalling. Let me tell you something. How many of you, and I thank you to Pete Santilli for teaching me this. How many of you have heard about what happened in Romania and how they got rid of communism? Yeah, okay. Well, for those of you that are not familiar, you can look it up online. What happened, in long story short, is that the Romanian communist government wanted to kill a pastor.
Yeah.
Okay? And because communist countries don't allow religion. And so this small group of people, relatively large, but you know, considering like they eventually became millions, a group of people basically stood around and did a candlelight vigil around this pastor, either his home or his church or something. And they had this candlelight vigil, and they basically said, "No, you're not gonna hurt this guy. You're not gonna kill him. You have to go through us." And then eventually, millions of people in Romania heard about the story, and they too came to the aid of this pastor, and they stood in between the communist police, the communist military, this dictator, and the pastor. And the communist police, the communist military they shot the front line, they killed some people. But then eventually they saw the evil that they were supporting. And the whole system flipped. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. They non-violently had a revolution of consciousness. They woke up. And I believe that in order for us in the United States and all around the world to oppose globalism, to oppose this New World Order, one world government, that is what it's going to take. Is nonviolent, non-cooperation, what Gandhi called soul force, self-suffering, the willingness to stand and non-violently oppose those who may choose to do violence against us. And to basically be a warrior of God. And I promise you, think about it, every time Jesus Christ taught it, Gandhi followed it, Martin Luther King Jr. followed it, they followed it in Romania. There's all these different examples of this working every time. So why are we doing it? You see what I'm saying? So my thinking is, there's a lack of organization is the reason. So let me propose something to you, and I'll get your guys' opinion on this. Imagine, did you guys know that our state capitol is built on ley lines? Do you guys know what ley lines are? Yeah. Okay. Washington, D.C. is built on ley lines too, okay? Now, these ley lines affect the quantum realm. And this quantum realm affects our consciousness, our collective consciousness. And it is through the laws, these tyrannical laws that get passed, that affect our behavior, they affect our minds, they affect our emotions, okay? And these people in these buildings built on these ley lines are controlling our behavior through this legislation, through law, which is kind of like, almost like bad computer code, because it's totally messing up our system.
Yeah.
Okay? So, imagine this. Imagine if we take that knowledge, okay, and kind of like what we were doing down at the Capitol.
Right.
Okay? We go down to the Capitol once a week, and we pray, we talk about Tesla technology, we talk about 0-point energy, we talk about Dr. Rife, we hold the sign that says, you know, release the cure for cancer, Dr. Rife's machine, we hold the sign that says we want 0-point energy, the patents are out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, this, we have been reactive. The media is the one that tells us what to talk about. Well, no. We decide what we're going to talk about. Okay? We say what we want. And when we do so on the ley lines, then we input that information into the grid, and we send good code into the grid. And we can, imagine this, imagine if every Saturday, every single capital all across the nation, including Washington, D.C., had patriots such as yourself going to their capital in a loving, peaceful, calm manner and talking about free energy, talking about the cure for cancer, uniting Republicans and Democrats and coming together in this way. That right there would change everything.
We the people!
That right there is a solution. Because it's about freeing our minds. The revolution is here first. The apocalypse is here first. And then the world changes as we change our minds. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to mention, you said a key thing, that we have to have a game plan. We should be very, different little groups, different directions. We're all unified, but then we get scattered. This affidavit mama that he was talking about, detail, this is something in which they really are making, they're notarizing for free, they're showing up at places for free. This is how we unify, this is how we take it to court, we go down and protest like you're saying, and then there's something that's going on with Save My Freedom, where it's a communication that's happening with Carrie Lake. When we hear about these things, and then we act upon these things, there's nothing that can stop us.
Well, and the thing is that they want us angry. They want us, that's why the media sells outrage, okay? They want us angry, they want us upset, because then we don't think clearly, right? So this is why, yes, affidavits and going the legal route is very important. It's very important. So it's also really important to first and foremost not become demoralized.
Right.
Okay? A lot of people got really demoralized from what I hear when the audit turned out to be a fraud.
Yeah.
And then people stopped showing up because it's like, well, what's the point? It's hot, we're not really getting anywhere, and then so there's this demoralization that goes on. And that is a part of psychological warfare, is demoralization, okay? So, I imagine that there were plenty of times when, I'll get to you 1 second, I see your hand. I imagine there were plenty of times when the founders felt demoralized.
They were not against each other.
Okay? They felt demoralized on several occasions. But they knew what they were fighting for. They knew that God was with them. And I promise you, God is with us, and the tide is shifting. Yes, ma'am. What's that? Yes. Nice to see you too. Everything in the mainstream is a psychological operation. In other words, it's about this, controlling the mind. This is a part of something known as full spectrum dominance. Full spectrum dominance is a military term. It means controlling the land, the sea, the air, space, technology, and the mind. Okay? So the mind is actually the battleground that we're fighting over. It is a spiritual battle because it is a soul battle, it is a mental battle, okay? How does this relate to Q? So this is the question that I have to ask. Where did she go? Oh, okay, I'm just making sure you're still here. Okay, this is the question I have to ask whenever I think about this idea of Q being a psyop, okay? Is it a psyop, a psychological operation? I'm talking to her, bud. Thanks. Is Q a psychological operation that is intended to divide the people or distract the people from a global takeover or what have you? Or is it a psychological operation designed to reveal to the public blackmail like Jeffrey Epstein? I'm talking, what's up?
No, I'm sorry, I don't interrupt. I'm being asked to leave just because of the way I'm dressed right now. But you and me, when you were in CCA, we were political prisoners at the same time. The FBI illegally searched my house. I was campaigning for sheriff. And I was talking about judicial reform. And that, when you talk about psychological operations, that's what they're doing. Because the moment that we're conservatives, constitution conservatives, when we pick up judicial reform, there is no divide and conquer. No, I'm not.
But here's the thing, bud. We can talk later. It's just, I was answering this woman's question.
I'm sorry, but I had to say it because they're asking me to leave.
I understand. I appreciate it. And we can talk, okay? I don't want you to feel bad, all right? Thank you for coming, okay? I appreciate it, brother. You don't gotta go.
They're asking me to go.
Well, you look like you were coming dressed for battle, bud. And I can't blame him for wondering what was going on. We're all about peace here, man. Okay, so, psychological operation. If there is an effective psychological operation that is going on, there will be infiltrators. Okay? So, do I believe that Cherokee Jr. is still alive? No. Do I believe that there is a slap? No.
Hey, we were in there too. We were in prison together. I was just telling Jake right now. We were in prison together at the same time. And I was illegally searched by the FBI, and we were in there together. And you and me were trying to send kites to Jake the moment he got into custody. What are the odds that we're here at the same time?
Have you checked out the Quantum Party website? No. We gotta. If we do malicious stuff, they're gonna fucking.
I got you.
We gotta do. Check out the Quantum Party. It'll be right up your alley, dude.
Well,
you have my card?
Yeah. Let me contact you.
Yeah.
All right.
You got my number, right?
Yeah. No, I don't right now. I don't have your number right. But let me shoot you some information, and let me talk about CPR. Because you know what, everyone keeps on saying we don't have a single solution to all of our problems, which is what they've done. They've done this by design. They've destroyed our American constitutional jurisprudence slowly over little deviations over decades.
I got a question for you. How are we going to fix it?
We got to have a complete redress. We got to tell these people, and we also got to embrace the military because the military are the ones who are going to defend us. Like what's going on in France and Brazil?
$2 trillion of our money.
Yeah, they did.
What if the military is not going to defend us?
Then that we might live in chaos, bro. But that's where it takes men like us. We got to make a stand, even if it costs us our lives. We have to be ready to say, you know what? We're drawing the line in the sand. Like even
the anti-gravity and all that stuff.
The words of
This is why I say do your own research. And is it?
I'm sorry, I get emotional when I talk about this, but like there's a line. And Ronald Reagan talked about this, where you draw the line and you say you don't cross this line, and they've crossed it for long. And we need to tell these people, these politicians, to retreat, get back from what they've been doing.
I get emotional when I talk about this. We got to unite in communist people, Romania. You know what brought down communism in Romania?
Does that mean everybody is?
Billions of people, billions, not billions, millions of people, but billions of people watched on around the world while millions of people stood there in a candlelight vigil in front of a church. And they said, if you want our way of life and our pastor, you're going to get past us. And they brought down communism peacefully with candles. because the police shot at the protesters, and they said, what are we doing? They were given orders to do that. The police disintegrated. The military stood down, and communist Romania became free, and Ceausescu got the bullet to the back of the head, and it was done peacefully. Because they don't know how to take us out when we stand shoulder to shoulder.
And here's the thing: people say, "Oh, because you're militia, you're pro-violence." I'm not any of that. I'm about absolute self-defense and preservation. I swore an oath in the Army National Guard. You know,
we're all militia. That's self-evident.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. And so when look at Joe Biden.
We gotta be strategic.
Yeah, we gotta be smart. I'm kind of a hothead myself. Like that's why I gotta speak up. And you know, there's people who are more strategic than I am. But I just know my heart is coming here to tell people I'm ready to die. They stole everything from me. They stole my son. They made me a second-class citizen. I can't even defend myself. And when it comes to humans, what Jake is speaking about with QAnon, this child trafficking, well, what about Midnight Productions? Midnight Productions is the syndicate right here in Maricopa County that has been murdering children live on film on the dark web. And the FBI has a CI file on me. And you know, this is the first time I've ever publicly said this in front of cameras or anything. But Dave Griswold is the self-professed owner-operator of Midnight Productions. And they're responsible for the disappearance of Mikhail Biggs. Mikhail Biggs disappeared in 1997. And what they did to that girl, I can't even say in front of your cameras. What they did to her. There is so much more stuff. This is not conspiracy. When it comes to QAnon, these are people who are trying to use maybe exaggerations to tell the truth about evil people right here in our state. They operate in Sunny Slope, they operate in Tucson.
Allegory.
So if this is the effect of the Q,
but that's what it is. The child snuff film industry is a very real thing. I've even talked to FBI agents who have thrown up after trying to discuss the conversations of what I was talking about with them. I've also, why was it that, like, we had the opportunity? Special Agent Jason Saida of the FBI, they had an FBI file, and I spoke to Agent Taylor of the FBI, and he had everything he needed to do a sting operation on these sick individuals. And they literally, what do they do? They illegally searched my home the same week that I publicly declare running for sheriff. And you know what? I like Jerry Sheridan. I like Mike Crawford. That's who's running? Mike Crawford. He's a good guy. But you know what? Are they going to have the balls to stand up and arrest Republicans and Democrats, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, for engaged in acts of treason?
They're all the same.
Yeah. What about the Equal Protection Clause? We have no Equal Protection Clause, and which is why we are in this place in the first place.
What's the best disinfectant? You know what it is? Sunlight, baby.
Yeah.
It's the best thing you do. It's the greatest weapon you have. Bring it right out into the open. Use all that energy and expose them. That's it.
Well, I'll tell you, I said some real shit. When I just, because, here's the thing. That name I said, when I talked about Dave Griswold, he's got a DOC number. He was released from Arizona Department of Corrections in 2020. He's apparently former member of the Aryan Brotherhood. And these guys, they recruited all of the most sick and diabolical individuals from the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, the New Mexican Mafia, and I was locked up with these people, all because in 2011, I violated a court order when I was going through a divorce. They labeled me a violent offender because I literally just begged my wife to just stay with me and work things out. Yeah, and I'm not a domestic violent offender. I've never been violent, and that's how they destroy. When are the Republicans going to talk about the 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th Amendments of our Constitution? They don't ever do that because that is the divide and conquer. They know that if they talked about judicial reform issues, then we wouldn't have Antifa. There wouldn't be a Black Lives Matter in America if these people had the ordinary function of criminal justice that Alexander Hamilton talked in the 84th Federalist Papers.
How do you feel about mainstream media calling Jake a terrorist?
Dude, if he's a terrorist, I'm a terrorist too. And you know what? If this is terrorism, make the most of it. I believe that. If standing up for the rights and standing up for our children is terrorism, make the most of it.
Want me to tell you some truth?
Yeah.
They declare us to be terrorists for one reason only. So they can surveil us illegally, and that's it. It's the only reason why they call us terrorists is to surveil us illegally. That's it. So call me a terrorist and surveil me, but I'm going to catch you and expose you.
Well, like I said, if this is terrorism, make the most of it, Americans.
You're
Make the most of it.
I got a question. No, you. All right. Me. So you said you were in prison with Jake Angeli.
Yeah, we were in CCA in Florence, Arizona at the same time. I was incarcerated.
500 unit, right?
Yeah, and this guy brought me my newspaper. When I lost my newspaper, he was like, "Hey, dude, I think this is yours."
What month were you incarcerated?
From Friday the 13th of December 2019. It was about 2 years. For a gun charge. They arrested me for possessing a Glock 43 in my own home. And
So when did you get out?
That was April of last year.
Tribal people in Shamanic
What's your name?
Joe Malone.
That's a sick ass name.
Yeah, dude.
Everyone says it. I should have. My dad thought I was gonna be a baseball player, bro, but I don't have the frame for it. But
Don't be angry. Be mafia.
Now,
You gotta check out the plan, dude. We got a plan to make this happen.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to just tell people I'm going to send you Joe Malone.
Well, I'm telling you, if anybody, I say, look at.
There's the plan right there.
All right, cool. That sounds good. But you know what? I actually came here because I wanted Jake to look at this campaign for sheriff. I would like Jake to endorse somebody other than the Republican establishment, which is Jerry Sheridan and Crawford. They're establishment people, and we need to go outside the box. We need to bring everyday Americans who have been exploited by this system. We need to be electing people like that to office. We need to elect people like Jake too, because they understand how they deprive us our due process rights in this criminal, corrupt system. It's disgusting.
Can you put your get up on again?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. All right. Why not?
Down the shamanic path and staying on it in spite of how
is where I was picking up my second.
Right now, I was getting myself into there.
Sometimes said I was wielding a gun. How you wield a gun, you don't know. But I was wielding a gun.
Can you help me really quick? Is there something back? Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Because this is what it means. I'm prepared to die for everyone here. I'm prepared to fight. I'm ready. And I can't even possess a firearm, but I'm ready to pick up a firearm and risk everything for this country.
Is there a particular thing that prompted you to decide to bring your kit with you today here? Anything in particular? Or?
Oh yeah, it's just one thing is just it's always about fueling the fires of liberty in the hearts of men. That's all that matters, because this is what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to, do we draw a line in the sand and we stand and we don't let these people cross any further, because they are evil. And even the Bible, Elijah, when he was face to face with evil people, he was a sensitive guy. I'm a very sensitive, sensible person. But when it comes to pure evil, which is what we're facing with the Biden regime and all these diabolical people who don't care about life. They're willing to blow up trains. They're willing to sacrifice anything on the altar of their own profiteering. That's evil. And the only way you deal with evil is you put them down.
So do you think it's time to get violent? Yeah.
When I say violent, I say that we should not be provoked, but we should be at the state capitol. And here's what's wrong with January 6th. In fact, there's a whole background about militia and what we were learning through Q drops, because that movement got hijacked. But bottom line is, we were preemptively drawing a line, and they destroyed that. That's why they have these January 6th investigations. It's all about destroying what we were told to do. And supposedly it was from Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump was our guy, then why didn't he do what he was supposed to do? Why didn't he declare martial law and lock down this entire country and arrest Congress? Because that's what they were supposed to do, and they did not do that. And they should have done that, because then there would be no COVID pandemic, there would be no vaccine, genocide, they're killing us. And I'm saying, I don't trust any politician anymore. It's about us. I'm going to trust my neighbor, and I'm going to trust my family members, because we need to defend ourselves from all of them, period.
So what do we do now? Is it time for revolution?
Yeah, it is. We need a call to arms, and we need to stand up. And you know what? The only solution I can say that is really it's what I'm doing myself. Coalition CPR. Coalition Purple Rose. It's about symbolism. And we're using the same tactics that the CIA used against us. They use symbolism to destroy populations in other countries. And what is the rose? Purple is it's about we're royalty. We have divine rights from God, our creator. Period. And the rose is a symbol of creation. Let's stand up for that. Let's stand up for the original intent. And these declarations that I've literally spent years, 8 years as a political prisoner, researching all of these little deviations, what I talked about earlier, how they destroy the Constitution over little deviations over a long period of time. We gotta tell them, like, you can't do this anymore. And we gotta not just do it, we gotta serve the police, we gotta serve the military, we gotta serve adult probation, because they all have unconstitutional practices. And if we don't stop them, if we don't make them feel uncomfortable, it's gonna keep on going on.
Well, so when you were at, I remember you were at MTech, Maricopa County Tabulation election, shortly after the stolen 2022 election.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted? Did you want people to?
Yeah, I just want to. No. I want people to just hear a different dialogue. I just want people to hear the grievances of, like, you know, I'm like here's the thing. I'm sick of being tired of being labeled a Fed or controlled opposition. That makes no sense, because controlled opposition doesn't bring people together. And what I want to do is bring people together, because if you talk about the 4th, 5th, and 6th amendments, you solve the problems. You don't have Antifa or Black Lives Matter. They don't exist. They've only used the judiciary as a tool to exploit these people for decades. So that no wonder they're being recruited as Stalinist revolutionaries, is because they've been destroyed. And the same thing with the family court system. It destroys fathers. That we don't have fathers involved with their children's lives. The foundation is being destroyed, but no one's talking. Donald Trump wasn't talking about that. Ron DeSantis isn't talking about that. We need to talk about that as a people, and stop expecting these politicians and their wordplay to defend what we have endured for decades. Yeah.
So
the devil's in the details. So let's expose the devil and all these details, and you know what? People become enlightened.
So
yes, they do. It's that simple.
Who do you work for?
Nobody. I work for Christ. I'm here. I'm a martyr, bro.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an electrician.
That's interesting. Okay.
Good light, dude.
I'm scared as hell from electricity, bro. But I'm an electrician.
What did you get arrested for in 2019?
It was prohibited possession of a firearm via a court order. And it's the same court order that made me a felon in 2011, where I violated a court order, and I was charged with aggravated domestic violence because my ex-wife had my son. And there's a lot of details. It's a long story, bro, but I'm willing to tell all of it. I'm ready to tell everything, because this is what violations of due process look like. And I support law enforcement. I love law enforcement. They've saved my life in my most misery, because I've dealt with substance abuse, I've dealt with alcoholism, I've dealt with so much stuff, and I would not be alive today if it wasn't for Scottsdale PD at all. But you know what, when they pick us up, when they pick up people who are dealing with substance abuse, they don't know what it's like, because they pick us up, they take us to jail, and after that, they don't know about the violations of due process. And if they did, they would realize, they're becoming more aware of it. Law enforcement is knowing this more and more every day, but it's a slow process, man. It's a very slow process.
Back to when you were in prison, you said that you met Jake at the Stafford Detention Center. When was that? I
didn't meet Jake. I thought you said you were. No, the guy who I was here with. We were locked up together. You
said you were locked up with Jake
at the same facility. Yeah. I was locked up a few months previously, and you know who else as one of my friends is Barry Croft. Barry Croft is one of the guys in the Wolverine militia. He was literally set up. He was lied about. They That guy is a freedom-loving, just like me. He's a weirdo. Like, I'm a weirdo, bro, but like, you know Barry Croft about the militia? You should know about this. Because what they did to him is they literally said, hey, you want to come to this bridge and smoke a joint? And then, boom, he's being arrested for a plot to arrest the governor of Michigan. That's a fake-ass setup. And you can look at Jeremy Dieter, you can look at Thomas Ledger. They're exposing the truth about these people.
I thought you had said you knew Jake and you were locked up with him.
No, I was locked up with the guy we were locked up in the same time.
But I thought you said in there that you were locked up with Jake. You said
no, we were. We were locked up in the same facility at the same time. Yeah, in CCA.
Same time as Jake.
Yes. When he got booked into custody, I was already in custody.
Right. So when did you meet him?
Never met him.
When was he booked into custody? When you were in custody? What?
It was like, all right. So that was January of 2021. Or he probably got taken into custody a little after that. Obviously, it wasn't January 6th. I was already in custody at the same facility Friday, the 13th of December of 2019. Yeah.
Jake was not at that facility. He was at the Alexandria Detention Center.
Didn't they ever bring him to Florence?
Very much later. It sounds like after you got out of Florence, he was booked there.
No, I was there. I never.
You were there at the same time as Jake.
No, I think when they did his initial intake, he would have been brought to Florence and then shipped out to DC. That's what would have happened.
So when was that you remember him being brought out of Florence?
No, actually, like there was guys we were talking and like they were like, hey, the guy with the shaman outfit is here, because we were watching the news on the television and he said he's here right now. And I even asked one of the guards, I was like, hey, is this guy here? And they said, yeah. And he's over here somewhere. So we tried to find out where he was. We wanted to send him a letter because, you know what? I mean, literally, this guy right here, this gentleman was locked up with me. We were both political prisoners.
You said you ran for sheriff?
Yeah.
Was that under can you say your name one more time?
Joe Malone.
Joe Malone, so your campaign was under Joe Malone and everything?
Yeah.
Great.
And the illegal search came within the same week. I filed my letter of intent with Adrian Fontes and the county recorder, and all of a sudden I get illegally searched, and it was stalking horse doctrine. My lawyer would not defend me. They dragged my court case out for over a year. I tried to fire my attorney. They wouldn't even let me, and it was under Judge Glenn Campbell, who was appointed by George Bush Jr.
That's a tragedy. I don't have any more questions.
All right, well, thanks. Hey, thanks for your time, bro.
It's good to meet you.
You too. The truth always comes out. The truth always comes to light.
Did you write it or what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You win the way. I'm giving you a point. W-E-N-D-Y. W-E-N-D-Y.
There you go, brother. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Right now, you've just finished giving your speech to the collective of dozens of people who have showed up here today.
Hundreds, it looks like.
Hundreds to show support for you and your endeavors over the last few years. What do you see your role going forward in this space, and as a member of this group collectively?
A spiritual guide on the road toward ascension and spiritual evolution.
And what would you say your biggest differences between your personal life and the perceived public image that you have, as far as you've been in the spotlight a lot over the last 2 years? What's kind of the message that you want to address kind of to the people who have only kind of glanced and seen the headlines about you? Like, what if you were to kind of summarize yourself as a person, how would you describe yourself?
Well, in regards to the media's portrayal of me, I can give it in 5 words. You've got me all wrong. The media has done a terrible job of portraying who it is that I am and what it is that I stand for. They said I was a failed actor. Not true. I never really even got into acting. Just because I had an acting profile online that I started in, I think it was like 2018 or 2019. That doesn't mean I'm a failed actor. They said that I chose the name or gave myself the title, the QAnon Shaman. That's not true either. They said that I was mentally ill, that I was schizophrenic, bipolar, that I was depressed, that I was delusional. None of that's true. So if I had to say what is the main difference between who I am in reality versus the way that the media has portrayed me, it's night and day. It's night and day. And all they would have had to do was read my books. All they would have had to do was watch my videos that were posted online, and they would have seen for themselves who it is that I really am and what it is that I stand for. But they chose to use their chosen narrative to create an image that they could exploit. It's called a straw man. They made me a straw man. They put something up that they could have everybody rally against.
And my third question is, looking back at all the trials and tribulations you've gone through, I know you can't get into specifics about the particular day, but looking back on the overall arch of events that have taken place from that day forward, would you stand by it? Do you think that this the cycle of how things have been was in the end worth it as far as where you stand now, like looking back?
I try not to live with regret because it is too heavy a burden to take into our future. And that goes with everything in my life.
Okay. As you saw, like there was many, if not almost all, Trump supporters here today. Being as though, unfortunately he's not in office as of now. How do you feel about that? Now that he's not obviously for running our country.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think Biden's doing a good job? Because I'll take mean tweets over this stuff any day. To me, it's as clear as the nose on one's face. It's as obvious can be that where we're at now is worse than we were 3 years ago. Does Trump have his faults? Yeah. Do I agree with him on everything? No. But does he have my support? Yes. And do I think that Biden is doing an infinitely worse job than Trump ever did? Yeah, I do.
So it was said that you apologized. Obviously, you learned. Unfortunately, I know you can't go into full detail, like as you mentioned about January 6th and whatnot. Like you apologized. Like, do you still stand by that, or are there things that you would like to say or anything like that regarding?
I'm not going to say anything regarding January 6th because it is my legal advice from my attorney not to say anything due to our motion in the courts. Upon that motion's completion, then I will say something. One thing I will say is I respect the judge quite a lot. I have a lot of admiration for Judge Lamberth. He's been a federal judge for 34 years. He was a Vietnam veteran, and I trust his judgment. It
was told that there were 4 officers that were hurt around that time frame. How does that make you feel?
Well, did you watch the Tucker Carlson footage? That's been debunked. Officer Sicknick never died that day like they said that he did. And the police officers that were injured or died died far long after the days of January 6th. So, I mean, why are we being called conspiracy theorists and why are we being marginalized for questioning known liars? The video evidence is there. The autopsy reports are there. These people, some of them died of suicide because they got slammed with a bunch of charges, from what I understand. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I've heard. Nothing more?
No, thank you so much for your time.
Namaste.